first, Professor Vipul Singh talk about the introduction of this panel, and then each panel is only 15 minutes. And after all of the presentation, we have the Q&A section. Okay, and so first, I invite Professor Vipul Singh. He is a professor of Department of History of University of Delhi in India. As Carson Center, Rachel Carson Center of the Research Fellow. Okay, so please talk. Thank you.
Okay, so this is about the theme that we have kept for this session, Historicizing Commons. So welcome to our session, Historicizing Commons. Today, in this session, what we do is that the paper presenters would explore the transformations of the shared resources ranging from rivers and hilly urban centers to the agricultural terrains, and this will be done through the historical lenses of commonization and decommonization. And then we end the session with understanding the theoretical aspect of the idea, which will be done possibly by Professor Pradeep Nayak, who is also, in fact, one of the leading scholars working on this whole idea of commonization and decommonization. So basically, our discussion takes as its point of departure Garrett Hardin's influential 1968 essay, The Tragedy of the Commons. We very well know about that. And basically, Garrett Hardin, through the example of a hypothetical village, he tried to prove his point, the model that he gave. And he basically argued that common resources, which of course include water, land, air, forest, ocean even. I mean, he although doesn't mention about all this, but then he says that if these are, all these commons are left without regulations, they inevitably fall prey to overexploitation. And it has actually, the essay that he wrote, it was so very influential that it influenced the environmental policy debates worldwide. And but then if we take this at its face value, his argument actually compels us to view all forms of historical resource sharing as inherently flawed. And then in that sense, state or the colonial interventions that we have seen in the historical past, particularly in Asian countries, they were both necessary and justified. Now, such a reading, however, it obscures the historical record. And then, if we go across different regions, different time periods, communities had evolved different prudent traditions, and they were, locally grounded traditions of managing land, forests, rivers, even, pasture lands, and many more things. And these were done with remarkable sustainability. So to accept Hardin's hypothesis uncritically is, in fact, to misconstrue these traditions, these prudent traditions of the past, and to naturalize the narratives that serve powerful state and the colonial authorities. So in revisiting this framework today, what we do is that, our understanding is that we want to interrogate its embedded bias, and we try to rediscover the more nuanced understanding of the commons as historically negotiated spaces of conflicts and resilience. We will be referring to a few of the terms which will be quite often used by many of the presenters. These terms like decommonization and commonization, these are relatively recent additions to the discourse on environmental history. And one of the prominent scholars who have been working on this idea has been Pradeep Nayak, and he has published a very interesting it's an edited volume. It's called Making Commons Dynamic. This was published in 2021, and it stands as a cornerstone that formalizes these processes. So he will possibly talk about those processes. So basically, commonization refers to the process by which the resources become shared, which is collectively managed, and the decommonization is the opposite of it. That is, it describes the transformation of such resources into privatized or state control entities. So, and then the central to our hypothesis of commonization and decommonization is the idea of excludability and the subtractability. Now, excludability actually pertains to the ease with which access to a resource can be restricted. So when we decommonize, we also restrict communities to use certain resources, and the subtractability concept actually describes whether one person's use of a resource diminishes its availability for others. Like, for instance, we have done many cases related to fisheries in the lake, which is actually a subtractable resource. So our session is to historicize these concepts and understand these implications within the specific Asian regions.